Hey, Podcast America. Welcome to episode 76 of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast, brought to you by my own company, Training Northwest. And what we have going on right now, we just finished our public class schedule for 2024 yesterday, and we are going to be booking private lessons through the winter, just like we did last year. So if you have a group of 4 people or more and would like to come out to our range in Granite Falls for a 3-hour block of either pistol or carbine classes, because right now might be a really good time to learn how to play a little bit of self-defense. You can get a hold of me.
Or offense.
Or offense, yeah, one or the other. You can get a hold of me at trainingnorthwest@protonmail.com to book your class with your friend. We've had friend groups. I've had church groups. I've had private corporate team building days. I've had a bachelor party. So, yeah, get your people and come on out for a training session. All right, today we have new Mike on the mic.
Hey.
Our old buddy Scott is back by popular demand, and Mike Kozak's off chasing Jordan's elk, so he couldn't be here today.
Dickwad.
So this is normally where I would throw it to Mike and say, what did we talk about today? New Mike, what did we talk about today?
We put together a plan to overthrow the government. No, we do
that privately.
We do that all the time. No, we had a good one. It was a lot of fun. Talked about some current events and talked about putting together a future for our way of life and our people. It was a really productive, meaningful conversation, I think.
I agree. And I said it at the end of the show. I want to say it again here in the intro. If you guys are enjoying the show, please either screenshot it and share it on whatever fucking social media you're on, or text it to your friends and family, because we've hit a wall of subscribership and we're trying to grow that. We're at like 300 listeners per episode. The goal is 1,000. We want 1,000 listeners per episode. So if you like these ideas that we're talking about, if you believe in the things we're saying, share it with your people.
Yeah, spread it around, folks. And if you find anything interesting, talk about it amongst yourselves, bounce it off your friends, your neighbors, share it around. This is good shit. It's good stuff to talk about.
Yeah. And I got to go buy a hunting tag, so we'll leave it there. Enjoy the show, you guys.
Yeah.
Getting through it.
You think they're all pre-recorded in there. I think you have to download them from somewhere, but I'm too retarded with electronics to understand.
I bet there's a roadcaster like
process.
You get on the
website
sound
effects.
and it gives you a whole heap of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're here with new Mike because old Mike had a pity party. He decided to exit the show, so we've replaced him with Scott Stilwell after last week's podcast, which makes too much sense. I'm kidding. Mike will be back. Mike will be back in a week.
I gave him my hunting spot, so he's
over there poaching.
Yeah, he's out there killing my natural resources.
Son of a bitch. That son of a bitch. And next weekend, this we might have a week break coming up, because next weekend Mike and I will both be over in North Cascades chasing deer around. Yeah. So if for all you guys listening, there might next week there probably will be no show. We'll have a gap, and then we'll be back at it after we come home empty-handed and feeling sorry for ourselves, but having had a great time.
That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. And I wanted to ask you guys. Okay, so I had a thought the other night, and I was thinking about sort of the overarching theme of climate change and the way the sort of globalist, whatever you want, the globalists are using it as a tool of oppression. And I was thinking about these carbon credits that you're forced to buy if you are, think like if you're an industrial company, or if you're a construction outfit, or, real estate or land development. And in order to now participate in your own industry, you are forced to buy your carbon offset credits, which nobody can really explain what that is. It's just something made up that is stamped on a piece of paper that you have to buy for millions of dollars. And it's going to start, I think, filtering down to the smaller consumer level. It already has, actually. If you want to build, like, for example, Electric North Jiu-Jitsu, in order to build that building, they threatened Greg with, they told him, no, you can't build it because it's on marshland. But for $5,000, you can offset your carbon credits or your wetland credits, and then you can build it. To which he said, that sounds like bribery, and I'm going to call a federal prosecutor and ask about it. And they called him within the day and said, you know what, we decided you don't need to pay those wetland offsets, which tells you right there a whole lot. And I think it won't be long before all of us are expected to pay some sort of carbon tax on our drinking water, and there will be carbon tax on our food. They already want to carbon tax your cattle and your beef, and there will be carbon tax on your corn. And before you know it, your entire life will be carbon taxed to the point where, I mean, the middle class is already struggling. We were talking before we hit record that, you know, by the time you pay bills right now because of inflation, that everything's gone. By the time you pay your bills, buy your groceries, and kind of get everything settled out at the end of the month, that's it. There is nothing more left in anybody's bank account at the end of the month. And I think that this is it's all these regulatory fees and licensing, and inflation obviously drove down the value of the dollar, drove up the cost of goods. And this is this final attempt to crush the middle class because, as the World Economic Forum says, you will own nothing and be happy. And the way to get everybody to own nothing is not to take it away from them, because they know that would spark unrest and resistance. It's to just slowly come up with things that you have to pay for until life just becomes unaffordable. And you go, well, I can't afford my mortgage anymore. And they go, okay, well, here's some free government housing. Now you're in the projects and you're part of the system. And I feel like we're right there at that tipping point.
Yeah, they're
and it's all under the auspice of saving the planet.
Yeah, and they're trying to install themselves as permanent landlords, basically. Mm-hmm. So there won't be a housing market. There won't be really any need for commodities. It'll all just be on lease, right? And then it'll be a part of your income. Like, you need your car. You don't actually own your car. You pay for your car constantly. You need your car, you know, but you don't actually own it. Yeah. You don't actually own your house. You don't actually own your clothing. You don't actually own anything.
Right. And everything done digitally. And it's, I think, the big push for electronic vehicles, although even my F-150 with a gas engine now is connected to the internet. So my suspicion is that somewhere in there is a kill switch, and that if you have the right connection, you can just turn my truck off.
Yeah. There's going to be a time that if you're on the road with a naturally aspirated gas vehicle, a turnkey locks, no electronics at all, that's going to be an issue. Someone's going to feel like they have to handle that.
Yeah, your 1995 Toyota Tacoma is going to become illegal, which it's one more reason that I'm really glad I bought that XR. Yeah, because it seemed like a little bit of a frivolous purchase, and it was only $2,500 for a 250cc dirt bike in good condition, which it's a good deal, and at the same time, I bought it when I bought this house. And so I was like, holy shit, I don't have money to spend right now, but somehow I need to get this dirt bike. And it's a kickstart. It has no, you know what I mean? It's all mechanical. It's all analog.
There's an innate feeling of freedom
Yeah.
when you get something like that.
Yeah.
And it runs and you can rip up and down the street and
Yeah.
do whatever you need to do.
And there's a redundancy in parts, and there's enough people that if something breaks down, you know you can fix it. You can repair it. Those old Toyotas, you know, just like you said, the 91 Toyota SR5, everybody in the fucking world knows how to fix and repair that thing.
Yeah. So. You can fix it with whatever's on the side of the road when it breaks down, you know.
It's as proven by the actually shit, you know what we need is Hiluxes. We have to try to figure out how to find one here in the US.
Yeah. I forget what.
Although really an older Tacoma pre all the Bluetooth and
any vehicle pre 1980.
Yeah.
You're fucking good to go.
Yeah.
1980. Well, I'm thinking pre 2000.
Yeah, I mean, there's still chips and parts and shit like that.
Oh, there's still like electronic fuel injection, that kind of thing. Okay, so you're talking about you want a vehicle with points and a distributor cap.
Yeah, just fucking as basic as it gets. You know, an old tractor. You know, just something that runs no matter what happens. I mean, that's kind of what they say about EMPs. If you want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit, like, as far as the boards and stuff melting or whatever with a EMP pulse. But that's I think 1980 is the year they typically say you're good to go as far as
no shit. It just got to go back that far. Damn. All right.
But I mean, you can pick up rigs
for K5 Blazers for everybody.
It'd be cool.
EMP can come in different ways too. I mean, it can be an attack, obviously, but it can also be solar flares or asteroid impact and shit that happens.
There was a large solar flare facing the Earth like 2 days ago, and I think it just barely missed us.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember reading something like you could potentially see the northern lights. I don't know if that was something to do with it, but
yes, it does.
So
anyway, I figured that Scott especially would have thoughts on climate change, so I'd bring that up. But I mean, we can take this episode wherever it goes.
Yeah. I don't know. Dirt bikes is always
dirt bikes is always a good thing.
It's new territory for me. I'm not a rider. I'll have to get developed on that one though.
I'm not much of a rider. I rode them around a little bit when I was a kid, and then there's obviously some crossover with downhill biking, but it just makes for it's a great little back, like when you think about the potential to have to mount some sort of resistance effort, having something like that you can scoot around on short distances and kind of fly under the radar, it's really useful.
Well, part of the American aesthetic developing the country was you can go anywhere under any circumstances. That's our relationship with the horse.
Unrestricted movement.
Yeah, exactly. That's, moving out west, everybody get in the wagon train. Those are the first kind of iteration of the highway system, and that's how the country really took off, is when we had the interstates. From coast to coast. You can go anywhere at any time for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's almost like developing infrastructure led to the rise of the economic engine of the country. Weird, and now we're letting it fall apart, and the country is sinking into bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, the way to fight that is, just like you said on the last episode, is those bullshit fees and permits. Stop it. Stop paying for those. Yes. Stop putting those restrictor plates on your own life. If you need to go somewhere, you're going to go somewhere. Yeah. If I have a dirt bike and a backpack, then I'm good to go.
Yeah. You're right.
But it gets more complicated when you have, kids and stuff like that. Then you need a truck.
Yeah. And that's a good point, is that those regulatory fees truly are restrictor plates for the middle class. And it is the way they keep the middle class from getting ahead, so that you're constantly on the hamster wheel of just, treading water.
When you're worried about the next bill cycle.
Exactly.
That's all you can.
It's like the end of the month, you pay the bills, and then you start saving in the first week of the month to make sure you can pay the end of the month bills again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not everybody's wired to be combative like that. Not even necessarily combative, but inquisitive. Like you say with Greg, like, why am I paying for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a lot of people are wired that. They see a fee and like, oh, I have to pay for this. It's like, no, you don't. Yeah. And it's not even bribery, it's extortion.
Yeah.
That's what taxes are. They're not
social
theft, they're extortion.
So that people don't question it.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, more than that, they'll turn on their neighbors.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Why aren't you wearing a mask?
Yep.
Stay 6 feet away from me. Where's your card?
Yeah.
Did you take your temperature?
What was it? The hotlines to call in, the 1-800 numbers to the state, so that you could report your neighbors for having guests over.
Yeah, correct. And we see this again. It's not going to stop, because we saw it on Twitter the other day with the North Carolina flooding. The FEMA's got a rumor report page now. Yeah. So when people post anything, it doesn't matter what it is. You can add the hashtag rumor report to their post, and FEMA will throttle it or take note of it.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. Huh. So, and this,
it's rumor report, or what's the hashtag? Because I'm about to start rumor reporting a whole bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, FEMA had a post or a hashtag they posted, say, okay, if you see any illicit conversation about the flooding in North Carolina, add the hashtag rumor report.
Okay.
And we'll be able to search that. We'll be able to identify it, and we'll throttle all of that content.
No shit.
So,
well, there you go, guys. Find all the LGBTQ fucking kindergarten trans parties and start hashtagging that and send it to FEMA.
Well, and we were talking about,
I actually spent, when we were off work for COVID, I spent an entire day, because I had nothing to do, sitting at my computer, because there was an email address with the state of Washington to report like neighbors or businesses that were not complying with the lockdowns. I spent an entire day signing them up for all the daily recurring newsletters I could search on the internet. So just to flood that inbox with all kinds of shit day after day after day.
Yeah, I've unsubscribed to the business newsletter or whatever so many times. I keep getting fucking hit with it. Assholes.
From the state?
From the state, yeah.
Funny.
I don't want your information. But no, we were talking about this the other day, like what's actually going on over there. We don't really know, because the one main source of information, if you post anything trying to discuss anything, it's going to deviate every which way. So I don't have concrete information on what's actually going on over there. And if you ask any questions, they're going to...
And part of me is almost encouraged by this, because what we're seeing is the federal government is actually falling flat on its ass with some of its primary directives. Like, it is failing in its most basic functions, which to me says, stop paying your taxes, because what the fuck can they do? They're showing their incompetence. Yeah. What can they really do? They're out of...
Mayorkas said, basically, he's like, we're insolvent. We can't help you. We spent all our money elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's like,
good. I'm about to stop complying with all of your regulations unless I want to.
And this is why the impetus is on us to stop feeding this useless machine.
Exactly.
They're,
Exactly. It's a dying machine, and we're all still pumping all of our resources into it because somebody, quote unquote, told us we have to.
yeah, we're not going to get our money back.
I don't think I'm going to anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to get anything back for the money that we're putting into it. And then these carbon offset taxes, it's something they've been working with for a long time all over the world, and it doesn't really mean anything. It basically just means existing is a fee.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and what are the things they're trying to do to offset the carbon?
That's the whole point.
That's
They're not
the thing.
doing anything.
The-
The idea is you pay for the carbon offsets. The state gets several $100 million.
The Dutch are doing. They're going to the ice caps and they're drilling a hole and then they're pumping a thin sheet of water on it, and they're trying to get the ice caps to
refreeze.
Oh
my God.
as they do it. They're like, this is how we build ice rinks. So but I mean, think of how low level that is as far as like
We're trying to come
what
up with
you're
another
doing.
half centimeter of ice here.
So they're just trying to build it back that way.
And the other frustrating thing is that a lot of these people are supposedly, quote unquote, scientists and educated people. The Earth is emerging, like 12,000 years is not a lot of time in geological terms. Mm-hmm. So 12,000 years ago, we were in an ice age. We are coming out of an ice age. Yes, the world is warming. The ice is melting. This is part of the cycle. And it's frustrating as fuck that people don't understand that. More and more people, we need that. That's the message that really needs to get out is, yes, the Earth is warming. And that's actually a good thing. More carbon in the atmosphere is a good thing because guess what fucking plants live on? Warm sunshine and carbon.
There's a reason that they have greenhouses with CO2 engines on the inside of them.
Yeah.
Plants require this to live.
Yes.
More CO2 is not the problem.
And I can go one level deeper into some of my like woo-woo conspiracy theories and, like the Bill Gates of the world who are trying to depopulate the Earth. Mm-hmm. I think they're trying to cool the Earth and limit carbon intentionally to create mass starvation.
Yeah. Because Bill Gates is buying up all that farmland.
Uh-huh.
And who else is? China.
China.
Yeah. That's got to stop. We got to figure out a way to cut that shit.
Food
Yeah,
independence.
if you listen to any of the old like oral traditions from ancient civilizations, what they call paradise times, the entire Earth was warm. Mm-hmm. The North and South Pole were vegetated, covered in green vegetation and plant and animal life.
Yeah, I think one of the theories on the Amazon is that at one point it was kind of just a giant before it became
food forest.
Yeah, exactly. Before it became overrun with lush jungle.
Yeah.
It was.
And same with
plants.
the Sahara Desert was green before it got. If you can zoom out on Google Earth. Everybody should do this. If you zoom out on Google Earth and look at North Africa, you can see it looks very clearly like a massive flood washed down out of like the Mediterranean or the Gulf of Arabia across North Africa, moving westward and then dumped out into the Atlantic Ocean.
You can see it in Eastern Washington. I mean, we
Yes.
made the drive back from Omak last month. You can see where there's cliffs that just drop off, and then if you look west, you can see where it's just like in a creek or anything else.
Have you guys watched on YouTube the Joe Rogan episode where Randall Carlson gets on there with all the slides and is showing all, and it's like, holy fuck, he's right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
When we drive over there, I'm always like, look at that.
Look at that.
Yep. A buddy of mine years and years ago took a bunch of drone footage when he drove across the state.
Oh, cool.
And drove his car and then flew his drone over his car and was like kind of panning around, looking at all the landscapes that Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson talk about. It's fucking striking. It's really beautiful to look at, but it's also like, hey, things happen to the Earth.
And then
it doesn't really matter what we're doing here. The Earth doesn't really give a fuck about us. Our place in the sky.
And you guys can't see it because it's right around the corner there, but I have the Perry Reese map hanging on the wall, and it clearly shows Antarctica as like a vegetated, inhabited land.
Oh, there's photos of it. There's grass growing in Antarctica right now.
Oh, right now.
Right now.
No shit.
Yeah.
So really, what I wonder is. And here's another deep conspiracy woo-woo theory is maybe the reason they're trying to keep the planet cold is there's something hidden under all that ice.
They don't want it to melt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's going to disrupt all of our accepted history narratives.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would be.
Fucking a civilization, like the ruins of an old civilization that will completely turn the history books upside down.
Well, you see, I mean, when people talk about the history of
bunch of giant bodies.
Yeah. Weird ass animals, dragons and shit.
Yeah, exactly. But the history of the pyramids in Egypt, people for a long time, they're like, these are 4,000 or 5,000 years old. But it would rip everything to pieces if we found out that, no, they're actually 40 to 50,000 years old, which is kind of possible, accepted now.
Yeah.
But how much of the educational industry is built on that?
Yeah. Well, and how many, the other thing that's weird is I bet that if you were to poll people on the street, just random people, 90% of people on the street would tell you that the pyramids were built to be a burial site for pharaohs. And nobody realizes, because that's what you're taught in school. And what is conveniently left out of the history books is that not one single burial chamber has been found, nor one, there's literally nothing inside the pyramids to indicate that they were a burial tomb or whatever, mausoleum or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
But there's a bunch of that terracotta pots.
There's a whole lot of evidence that the pyramids were some sort of battery process or energy machine or ram pump or you know what I mean, insert idea here.
And they're all over the world.
Yes.
There's some in Indonesia, there's some in Central America and South America. There's probably some in the United States that we don't really know about. I mean, you think about
all over the Mississippi Valley.
Yeah.
So maybe electric cars is the way.
Tesla
charging stations.
Oh, maybe that's why he named them Tesla. Because someday they'll be running on free energy.
I'll be running on induction.
Yeah,
atmospheric induction. Wonder if that's possible. Burp. Okay.
Yeah, dude, the pyramids have me so messed up.
Yeah.
Right. Because I just my whole life it was just a tomb. It was a big tomb, and everybody who made it got killed because they didn't want to see all the gold that was inside of it.
Yeah. It was reading Graham Hancock's last book, America Before, that really kind of got me down the rabbit hole to begin with, because he lays it all. It's a very boring first half of the book where he's just talking about all the sort of astral alignments of all these different ancient works all over the world. And I almost put it down and was like, all right, I get it. They aligned everything with the North Star and the equinox, blah, blah, blah. But then he ties it all together where it's like, okay, hang on a minute. In an era where supposedly intercontinental travel was not possible, how do all these cultures have all these similarities? They all have origin stories that involve a flood, after which a higher level of people arrived to reestablish society. They all have carvings of like Quetzalcoatl and then dragons in the Middle East and in Egypt. It's like all these cultural similarities all over the fucking world. And how do you explain that if people and ideas were not able to travel? Or I guess I should say if the accepted narrative is that the best travel we had come up with to that point was like a fucking dugout canoe. And travel was limited to local localities. About the same travel range as an XR250.
What if that was like a bunch of dragons and shit up there?
Yeah, well, what has anybody ever seen?
Rather.
It's funny. Like, what are dinosaurs? Maybe they were dragons. Who the fuck knows? We don't know. Maybe they were covered in feathers.
I mean, big ass birds. Yeah.
I've never told you guys one of the goofiest conspiracy theories that I think makes no sense, but I like to think about it sometimes, is maybe the dinosaurs aren't as old as we think they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not millions of years old.
I don't think anything pre-World War I, the history we've been taught, is accurate.
You ever hear Bill Hicks has a joke about what happens when you are voted president? The first briefing that you get is you go into a basement that nobody knows about underneath the Oval Office, and they show you a video of the JFK assassination that nobody's ever seen before, and then they say, "Any questions?" Yeah, I think that's the same kind of conversation that people at that level of.
And there's a rumor that, have you guys seen the floating tree in the assassination video of Kennedy? So there's a point where as the car is driving by, suddenly there's a tree there. Nobody notices. There's not a tree, and then there's a tree. Like the video has been spliced and edited.
Yeah.
And so there's a rumor or a conspiracy theory that it was actually the driver who turned. Then the reason that Jackie Kennedy immediately starts trying to escape out the back of the car is that as the shot was fired from the book repository, the driver turned around with a pistol and shot him in the face.
Yeah. I now that you say that, I've heard that before, and I've seen. You can if
that
you
was a poor attempt at escaping.
She's wearing a poodle skirt.
Yeah, fucking up and out of there. Heels. Yeah. I'm hitting that concrete.
Yeah.
Top down.
Up and over, tuck and roll.
There's a bunch of those, though. I mean, I think there was one with Biden fairly recently. He's up there on stage, and then a person appears and then disappears.
Oh,
just in one little frame.
Yeah, so you can see
they do this shit all the time.
Videos,
they've been doing this for a long fucking time. You ever try to find footage of Notre Dame Cathedral burning from an eyewitness?
Oh,
you can't.
Interesting.
It's all state media, and it's all the same footage of the chapel falling down.
No shit.
You can't find it.
Huh.
I mean, there's no on the ground eyewitness footage of the cathedral burning.
That actually ties directly into I believe everything pre-World War I is fake history, because you have think about all the cathedral fires across Europe in the last 20 years or 30 years. Mm-hmm. It's almost like somebody's going one by one and attempting to actually burn them down. It was there was one in France just like 3 weeks ago that had a big fire. I can't remember which one. And these are stone buildings. How are these buildings having so many random fires?
They've been there for hundreds of years.
Yeah, made out of stone and plate glass.
Yeah, and just all of a sudden in our lifetime.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be lots of things. I mean, it could be obviously it could be the people that very much hate Christianity. Yeah,
that is true.
And going back to, we were talking about climate change and then migration, because I think the thing we kicked off with was, I think we were talking about it before we recorded, but Ireland, England are no longer going to be an ethnic majority in
Irish
their country.
English,
yeah, they're on their way out. This is the last generation of people that are going to see. They're not a majority now. They won't be a majority ever again.
That Ireland will be Irish, and the last generation that Scotland will be Scottish, and the last generation that England will be English.
Yep, and you can extrapolate that across Europe. You can eventually it's going to be the French.
And it's also so. Here's an interesting social programming thought: is that people have been so conditioned to think that nationalism is bad, that most of the Scottish and English and Irish are cheering for this. They're like, yeah, wipe out our culture, wipe out our heritage. Mm-hmm. We've been told it's bad. And one day they're going to wake up and realize that the culture that's replacing them is not that tolerant and expects them to conform to its ideas and its policies and whatever social norms. And I think those people are going to be in for a rude awakening.
Well, yeah. And we kind of saw a glimpse of this a couple weeks ago.
Actually, I take that a step further. I wonder how long until at some point they're going to say, hey, I don't want to live under these strict Islamic laws or whatever. And at that point, it's going to be too late. And I wonder how many of those people will be executed for not now conforming to laws that come from a completely different region of the world. And you know what I mean? Like as Sharia law becomes instituted.
Well, and they're letting them create policy, right? Isn't that part
of
it?
Well, and they're being elected into like high level cabinet positions.
Yeah,
in all
and
these
they have like running quotas. They're going to appoint people to position based on their religion.
So it really is like a soft takeover of the Western world. Is what we're experiencing. It's what we're trying to resist.
Well, you see it over there happening faster because just land. Right, they're connected. Mm-hmm. They can get there, and here it's not as easy, which is why you're seeing people come up from the southern border like crazy.
Well, and here the populace is armed too. So we are like the last holdout. There is one last hope, and it's the United States of America. Excuse me. And it's because we are armed, and it's because that gives us the ability to resist if we want to. Because there is a lot more of us than there are of the the enforcement arms. Mm-hmm. And I actually think the enforcement arms will crumble pretty quickly, because the motivation there is you're going to have a whole lot of people going, just like in COVID, I don't agree with this, but I'm just trying to do my job. Mm-hmm. And I think if we have another go round where just trying to do your job means violating other people's civil rights, I don't think it's going to end well for the police officers who try to pull that shit.
Yeah, and especially if there's so few of them making enough money to get by anyway, and then you're going to be asked to basically volunteer your time and potentially your life to defend something.
It's what it is. Yeah, it's going to be, well, you're making this excuse. This is how I pay my kids. This is how I get my health insurance. I've only got 9 more years to get my pension. Well, is it worth dying for? Yeah. Is it worth your life? For your pension,
I have none of that right now. I'm just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. And we're headed there. That is where I'm worried that we are headed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, like I said earlier, part of the reason why my kitchen's not done, because there was a lot of other things
A lot of
being
other
bought.
things that needed to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The narrative with climate refugees and then this massive influx into Europe that happened over the past, it's still happening obviously, but really over the past 15 years is that climate change is driving all these people. Same thing that we heard with Haiti into all the way up into Ohio recently. Climate change is driving. This is like, no, it's not. Our disastrous foreign policy is destroying these parts of the world,
destroying other countries,
and then people have, and we don't know the percentage.
It's our own military actions that started a lot of these refugee movements.
Yes,
they're using climate change, the term, as a key to unlock the door to other countries.
It's the way to get everybody rolls over and accepts, it's for climate. It's because of climate change.
Oh, we have to do this.
The Libyan government didn't get overthrown and turned into a fucking slave state and hundreds of thousands of people escaped for their lives. It's like, no, climate change. The sea levels rose an inch.
Yeah.
It's a smokescreen for our foreign policy, just like lots of other stupid narratives are.
And what's funny is a lot of people, again, because they are socially conditioned, they look at a lot of these as individual issues. And if you zoom out to like a 100,000-foot view of the Earth and a strategic level of planning, it's all one. This is all one push. It's all one effort at attaining a global empire.
Yep.
It's pretty masterful.
It is.
Honest.
It is.
It's pretty impressive.
It's fucking genius. Yes, it is. And I would love to have access behind the curtain, because I want to know how long ago it was actually put into action. This is not something you do quickly. This takes decades. This took like decades of planning and exactly.
That's the real secret history I want to know about.
If you could go derail us a little bit here. If you could go to the Vatican and get into the tunnels underneath,
the catacombs
and go through, what is something you would, information, right? I imagine the information there is fucking just immense, right? But what is something that you would expect to find and something you'd be looking for?
Oh God, what I would not give to be able to go in there and just pull book after book and just sit there and read it.
But you're going to get...
There's more. I don't know. I would wager that the library at Alexandria was cleaned out and stored under the Vatican, and that there's more information there than any of us could read in a lifetime.
Oh, without question.
It would take teams of...
Even if they put it on Audible.
Academics, lifetimes to sort through it all, put it back into practice. Like, I'm sure there is like free energy, 0 point energy. There's so many people working on that underground right now who are afraid to speak openly about it because they'll be, look what they did to Tesla, right? Or look what they've, think about these guys who they develop a car engine that runs on water and then they have a mysterious accident, 2 years later or before they can sell the patent.
My great grandpa used to tell me about that when I was 7 years old. He'd be like, there was a man who invented an engine that ran on water.
Yeah, and there's even
the bottom
a law
of the ocean now.
I'll try to Google it when we take a pee break, but there is a law that says if you register a patent, like the DOD and the not just DOD, but all these different bureaucracies review every patent application, and they can look at your patent and go, oh, that needs to be classified, and they'll snap a classified sticker on it, and you can never bring it to market. You're not allowed to touch it anymore. Your invention is just gone.
Yeah, they just snatch it for themselves.
Yeah,
now it's theirs.
Yep.
So don't come up with too good ideas, folks.
I was just going to say, if you're working on free energy or 0 point energy in your garage, don't talk about it except with your close friends until you're ready to release it. And then on top of that, you also have all these boners who they like to tease it on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And it's you guys don't have shit, because if you did, you wouldn't be here talking about it like this, showing us what you came up with that doesn't quite work. Yeah. Well, a little bit different vibe here because we're having breakfast and coffee instead of late evening and beers. And there's no mic here to cackle at everything.
the esoteric.
That's it. There we go. Yeah, the esoteric mind of Mike.
Yeah. Well, let's take a pee break real quick. We're only half
hour in, but fuck it, it might be a short episode because you know what? I got to go buy hunting licenses and get packed for deer camp next week. Pee break.
of the world.
Oh, fuck yeah, we are. All right.
Unless you don't
Our
want to.
pee break conversation was getting a little spicy. So ask that question again, Scott.
What are the things that you need to decouple from the current state of affairs in America?
Okay.
If you're going to name them on one hand.
So I would go straight to Maslow's triangle, and I would say food, water, shelter, safety, which, so you're going to need.
So let's kind of put that at number one then.
in a
at
place
one,
to do
one
it.
item. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you need some handyman skills, and you need to understand gardening and either agriculture or hunting, which agriculture is going to be a far less strenuous way to go than relying on hunting for sustenance. Food, water, you'll need clean water supply, like a lifetime clean water supply. Like filters are great, but eventually they clog up and they're done. Safety, yeah, you know how to fight. You need to know how to shoot. Think back. You guys have seen Outlaw Josie Wales?
It's been a while.
You guys remember the end scene where they're all holed up in the cabin in Texas and the whole granny's loading rifles and everybody's firing out ports and whatnot? Like everybody you don't need to be a high-speed commando, but everybody needs to know how to load and fire a rifle for self-protection, whether it's invading outsiders or grizzly bears. One or the other.
But then you're going to have to outsource weapons and
you need manufacturing. It takes a lot of people to create a society because you need a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And you need a lot of diverse skills.
You need a lot of shit to compete with the current world we live in, right? I'm
not talking about competing with current levels of comfort. I'm talking about creating sustainable, survivable community where we're not just killing ourselves daily to get by.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're only as strong as your
weakest link.
Your army, your ability to defend yourself, right? Like. And if you have no means in which to do so, and you have to rely on other countries to give you that, you're at their bidding.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that if just this country breaks down, then we're very weak against others.
Yeah, well, I'm saying if we wanted to start our own
China,
our own place in this world, and we were going to decouple from the government and take over, a few thousand.
Oh, the
acres,
independent Republic of Granite Falls.
Yeah, what does that end up?
We're back to talking about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we pull everything back to basically the neighborhood level, I mean, what would we all need? And this kind of goes back to the last conversation, the last podcast that we have is if the money falls out and you have no money, well, you need to be healthy because you need to be able to work and contribute something.
Yes.
And then you need to be in good standing with your community. You need to be a good neighbor. So you need to be healthy and strong, have some skills. Basically, you have to be a Swiss Army knife. In some ways.
I like that. Every man should be striving to be a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, and because that's what
and not necessarily with the same tools in your Swiss Army knife, but everybody should have 3 or 4 different little skill sets that they can fold out.
Yeah,
and be useful.
It's one of those silly jiu-jitsu memes, but it's really effective. It's like when you're a white belt, you think about jiu-jitsu like it's collapsible multi-tool with all these different implements, and then you get to the next belt and there's fewer implements and there's fewer and fewer, and then you get to the black belt and it's a Swiss Army knife. You have one in your pocket, you take it everywhere, you can do a lot of shit with it. That's having a black belt. But if you have a society where everybody's a strong blue or purple belt, not even a society, a community, you're in a really good way because you can build, you're healthy, you're strong, you can provide for each other. I mean, I'm not much of a gardener. I'm not much with livestock, but I can wire your house and I can build shit. We can work something out.
I'm a really good handyman.
Yeah. So there's basic health and needs. What else?
Safety and security, food and water, and a roof over your head. And then you're going to need like higher level stuff. Then you get into like healthcare.
Yeah. So this is where I want to take the question. So basic hierarchy of needs. We kind of got that covered. That's item 1. And then healthcare would be item 2.
Okay.
Right. So you need surgeons, you need doctors, because someone's going to break their arm, someone's going to get an infection, someone's going to get hurt. Yep. This shit happens. So that's item number 2.
But that now requires specialization, which we get into. Now we need specialized agriculture, like somebody farming beef or raising beef so that the doctor can focus on medicine. That's where we truly get into creating that. Now we're talking about a society, not just a little rabble of people who are trying to separate themselves.
Now you need to have a recruiting platform for these people. You need to make what you're doing appealing enough that they actually want to contribute, or that you can reward them enough for their time that they're going to contribute.
Yes. Oh, so I see what you're saying. So really what you need is you need people who believe in the cause and buy into the new burgeoning society.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I don't know if we'll get that or not, because a lot of people seem really happy and comfortable right where they're at. And, back to the old, give them circus and cake and they'll be happy. A lot of people right now, as long as Netflix is streaming and they can call Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever and get food brought to their door, they really don't give a fuck if you take away all their civil rights. That's all they care about, is they want to go watch their shows and eat their shit food and go to bed.
Yeah. And I think the key to get out of that is to appeal to people outside of that.
Yes.
That network, that frame, because there are people that want to.
Those are also the people who will not resist whoever, it doesn't actually matter. You can go full globalist control, or maybe our side wins and we go full freedom. But that 70% of the population, they're just kind of floating with the current. They don't actually care which way it goes, so long as they have their circus and cake.
Yeah. Especially if you're a doctor and you're making really good money. And I know that, my mortgage and my car are going to get paid no matter what. I went through this, 12 years of medical school or whatever, and I'm so fried out by doing that, and I'm paying all my bills back. I got a good thing. I'm not going to question anybody. And you've siloed your skills into that point.
I think more and more people have reached even doctors have reached the point where they're tapped out. They're paying for malpractice insurance. They're paying all these, you know what I mean? And a lot of, I don't know how many of them have realized that they're forced to sort of pump patients through. Like, they get 6 minutes with each patient. They got to keep them moving. And
it's a mill.
Exactly. And that's the only way they can keep themselves above water. So really, we think of them as like this higher class, but they're not. They're in the same boat as us, where they are barely treading water, and they're working so hard to keep their head and mouth above water that a lot of them just haven't had enough time to look around and go, holy shit, this is not the way it's supposed to be.
And this is my point, is to try to appeal to this character outside of the frame that they currently exist in. Say, hey, you don't have to do all of that. We'll pay you straight up.
Yes.
You don't have to pay all these stupid fees. Yeah. You just sign the little waiver or whatever that we're all on agreements that we're going to do. If I need my arm fixed, or
if I die under your knife,
well,
you know what? That's the risk we're taking too.
Yeah. But if we're in, catastrophic times or whatever, and my knee goes out, well, someone needs to know how to fix my knee, or I'm just going to limp around for the rest of my life. And we're too far advanced to have to go back to the Middle Ages.
No, I agree. And part of me thinks that if all right, this is a impossible scenario, but if all governments dissolved worldwide, I don't think we need them, because I think the people who are doers will rise. A lot of people would die off because they live on subsidies and handouts. But what would be left is a whole lot of people who are proactive, and we all want the same thing. We want safe societies. We want to raise our kids. We don't want to fucking fight. We want to hang out and have picnics and barbecues and go swimming in the lake, go skiing. And I think that would reestablish itself. I think that could reestablish itself independent of a government, because that's what everybody wants to do. Yeah. This notion that in absence of us being under control, we would all devolve into chaos and war and fighting. I actually don't think that's true. I think
most
short
people
term,
don't believe that.
There would be a little bit of fighting and chaos over resources, because the resources are so scarce and so few people know how to provide their own resources. But again, after that initial year, maybe 2 years, I think we get back to everybody wants the same thing.
Yeah. And having even if it's not necessarily religious or church based, having a core ethos that we're going to stick to, that's going to keep your society together.
Standard.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And we're not going to adjust it. We're not going to make it any more complicated than it absolutely needs to be.
Yeah.
But
and it goes back. Also, there's the well, shit. How do I say this right? Last week we brought up the point that your value, our human value, doesn't change just because the dollar or the government collapses. Yeah. Fuck them. Let them collapse. My value remains the same. I can still contribute the same. In fact, I can contribute more to society when I don't have the restrictor plate of the IRS sitting on top of my shoulders. Mm-hmm. So really, I wonder if we couldn't just completely do away with it all, which I realize is probably impossible, if society wouldn't just go fucking apeshit, because the restrictor plates would be off of everybody.
Yeah. Well, some people would not react to it.
And some people would take advantage of that.
And some people would think, you'd have grown ass people that feel like they just got the keys to mom and dad's car for the weekend.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
We would also have to be harsh with punishments, because there would be people who would try to arise warlord style by controlling resources.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like look at North Africa, or like Mogadishu or Somalia, where you have, the UN brings in all these food and medical resources, and immediately the warlords snatch them by force so that they can dole them out, because in a country completely devoid of any sort of resource right now, the man who has all the food and medical supplies, he's in charge.
Yeah.
And so that's how you end up with these situations. But, and why I say punishment would have to be harsh is if someone attempted to do that, you'd have to kill them very publicly and very painfully.
Let the whole world know.
Let everybody know.
At least your whole community know. Like,
Exactly.
This is not how this works.
This shit ain't going to fly.
No, we're keeping it together. You don't have to do everything that we want to do. You can do your own thing, but you don't get to monopolize anything now. We're not running back what we just tried to build ourselves back from.
Yeah. And we really have sort of become almost a nation of legitimate warlords, where we have these mega corporations like the Microsofts and the Amazons and like General Electric, and what are some of the other big ones like General Mills and Coca-Cola, that really control so much of our resources. And that's why so many people were afraid during COVID, because it is when all of the grocery stores are controlled by Kroger, it's very easy for them to say, hey, you can't shop here because we're not going to accept your money. Or really for them to say, we only accept US dollars. And I say, well, I don't want to work in US dollars, because that gives other people the ability to skim my value off the top. I just want to trade my value for value, which I have a customer who came to my class yesterday, and she brought in, she didn't pay me. She made me a really nice quilt and brought me some chicken eggs and a loaf of sourdough bread.
That's
and I was
fucking
like,
awesome.
I fucking love this, because I just gained, like, I feel like I actually traded my true value for someone else's true value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Beautiful
awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that with the stores, going back to what you were saying, with
But like,
who truly runs shit.
An independent,
they told the government,
yes, an independent business is allowed to say.
People can shop at our stores during this pandemic, but the people who ran their own little independent stores, they didn't get to say that, right? Until they just said, fuck you.
Well, they could have.
They did. A lot of people,
look at Electric
did.
North said, hey, we're open.
A lot of places did,
Yeah.
but there was, I'm saying, like, when we went shopping, right? Remember, all the big stores, all the big box stores were open. We were good to go.
Home Depot was open.
Yeah.
Safeway was open.
Costco.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, Tom Thumb was closed up.
Yeah. So it's almost like sanctioned warlordism is what we're living in right now in the United States. And that those sanctioned warlords are these large corporations.
Yeah. Running the ships.
And this is why this conversation is so, I've been kicking this around so much, is I think if we really look at all of these issues and think of them as things that we are able to escape, then we will escape them. Sure. We don't need to be captured by the healthcare apparatus or the communication apparatus or the transportation apparatus.
Yes.
And this is the point of this conversation, is to build something that is self-sustaining and self-reliant, and not just for the sake of ourselves, but to do anything else, to lead by example and set the tone for other people, because that's what it's all about. If you, going back to our, belief in action, my little spiel on that last week, to really express how you feel about something, set an example for it, right? Live a good, healthy life, have good friends, have a good family.
And again, say that again too, because that was such a great statement. It's if you don't act on it, you don't believe in it.
Yeah, if you don't
actions are beliefs.
Yeah, if you don't actively pursue or actively live out your life or make an issue for the things that you believe, you don't believe it. And the point is that belief is it's a synthesis of the things that you hold near and dear to your heart, the ethics and values that you have, and also how you live your life. It's like
what you actually physically do.
Correct.
And I fucking love that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we keep bringing this up, because that is what's missing in America. Is a lot of people claim to believe in things, but their actions say otherwise.
Right. And this is why, the church coming back to some sort of a semblance of a baseline. This is why it's so important, because that's what this is. It's living with intention. It's not just living for things. It's living because of things.
Yeah.
It's living for the next thing.
Yeah, boy. And what a personal challenge to put out to everybody out there who hears this. If you want to claim you believe in something, start living it and start acting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I keep going back.
And I also
to
like that
wanting
Scott
to
is. I
buy-
just noticed that Scott's wearing a T-shirt that says "Violence solves everything."
and he believes
Maybe I
it.
hang this one up. Really,
trying to buy American.
Yeah,
Just
Yeah.
which is
like,
really difficult.
dude,
though.
well, the thing is like if you do that and you believe in it, you can do it. You're just going to go out. You're going to go without a
Yes.
lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot you're going to go without.
And it's not realistic.
But do
in
you
the way,
need it?
In the way the economy has been set up right now, it's good to try to do that, but it's not realistic to go full American made right now. And that's something that we should be actively working on improving. But until manufacturing becomes like I don't
One
fault a
step-
business for trying to make money. And if
one
they can make
step-
it cheaper, if they can make a cheaper widget in China or in India or in Taiwan, then you know what? That's what you do, because that's how business works.
But
the
that's-
reality is it's policies being made that intentionally push those businesses to China or Taiwan or India that are the true evil. And we need to reverse those policies so that it becomes
which
profitable
comes
for a
back to
business.
climate
Yeah.
change. Oftentimes.
Yeah, exactly.
well, I think we take for granted that we live in an inflationary economy. It's bullshit. It's not supposed to be this way. The natural state of the economy is that prices go down and they get to an acceptable low rate, and then they fluctuate based on supply and demand and all that kind of stuff. So, naturally, your eggs would be, let's say, they'd be $2 for a dozen. Every once in a while, they'll go up to $3 because chickens die off. It's bad season, whatever. Yeah. Sometimes they go down to $1.80. Yeah. Or
sometimes
whatever.
somebody burns down like 18 chicken facilities, and then the price has to go up a little bit.
But so much of it has to do
they go
with,
up to $5 a dozen.
global politics and the price of, natural resources and oil, right? Like oil went down. We had that dip, and then they inflated the price because manufacturing went down because we had a surplus, and manufacturing goes down, and then the price of oil goes back up. And who's that? Is that helping the American people? Is that helping the U.S.? Is that helping citizens in general, people who rely on that? It doesn't, right?
No.
So to keep the guys who have the resources, like you said, the warlords with the resources, to keep them happy, they slow down manufacturing. They drive that price back up, and everything has to readjust to that, because at the end of the day, oil is king.
And since
energy is king.
Yeah.
Well, energy is king, but right now, oil is king.
Yes.
Yeah. And since our entire economy is attached to the hip with oil production, because that's what it takes to move things from point A to point B. That's why we're in this spiral, and that's why energy independence for this country is that's the biggest thing that they hated Trump for, is because if we have energy independence, we don't need to have such
true independence.
Exactly. But then if we have energy
Holy
independence,
shit! So
we
maybe
don't.
that should be like a new level of the base of the pyramid, below food, water, shelter, safety, or maybe along with that, or maybe that's more of a higher plane, like establishing a free society. But that is the base of a free society, is energy independence.
Yes, and if we have that, we don't need to have such a huge footprint abroad with our military.
Right.
That's the whole reason that we can justify our existence over there, is because we don't have energy.
We're like a global
independence here.
warlord.
Yes.
We run around taking everybody's resources.
But we're sitting on them. We
Also-
have resources here. We're not tapping into.
because scarcity is what keeps control.
We purposely don't,
Yes.
so that we can keep aircraft carriers on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's America's biggest export.
And I wonder
fucking stick we
also
walk
back
around.
to my if
Everyone
all
wants to be
governments
nice to
could
the
just
bully.
be wiped off the earth. I think there is so much abundance here in this natural world that very quickly we would, again, because we are all handy and sort of like proactive and those types, we would all figure it out. And there is enough abundance here on this earth for everybody to be just fine. And it's manufactured scarcity. It's exactly what we're talking about. Not taking the oil or the natural gas out of the earth that's right here in the United States intentionally to create scarcity.
And this is why it's so irresponsible for our country to have a national policy for anything, but especially for energy, because every state, every location has its own demands and its own resources, right? We have timber. You look around right now. How many dead trees do we see? That's just free heat for your entire fucking neighborhood.
We
years.
called the unofficial name of my house is the tree house. Because everywhere you look, we are surrounded by trees. We're in like a bowl basin of trees with a lake.
Yeah, and
this is abundance.
It's the Northwest. If you have a hill, you have a pond.
Yeah,
you have unlimited water supply because it rains 7 months straight out of the year.
Yep.
There's coal. There's there's ways to live that have nothing to do with trying to have some international energy cabal.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crazy thing is like without moving, right? To stay localized, we don't need oil necessarily because of that, right? We have so much abundance here, and the OG fucking, energy is dirt, and we have it. Right, it's here. It grows. We have growth. We have fucking,
sunshine, sunshine, and carbon. Heyo is the OG energy engine.
Yeah,
and we have it in fucking truckloads.
Yeah,
yep.
We have buttloads of it here.
Buttloads.
Yeah, and I know because one time I shoved a pine cone up there, and I know I could fit way more.
It was before a wrestling match, and you went out and dominated.
What can you do?
So much energy.
Yeah, they call me prickly pear.
Yeah. All right. So hang on. I want to go back because right before we took tea break, I wanted to look this up. It's called the Invention Secrecy Act. Codified in 1952, is a body of the United States federal law designed to prevent disclosure of new inventions and technologies that, in the opinion of selected federal agencies, present an alleged threat to the economic stability or national security of the United States.
Economic stability or national security.
Opinion.
Yeah. So, folks,
how many inventions have been? It's literally like that warehouse in Indiana Jones.
Oh, 100%.
How many inventions have been put into wooden crates?
A lot of Nazi
and
crates
shoved away.
and just like you said too, it's like don't come up with too good of an idea. You're never going to get any return for it. They're just going to take your patent does not belong to you any longer. You can't make any money on this.
Or figure out how to manufacture it at scale before you even it has to be out there. So many people, try to release these things as like teasers. Hey, we're almost there. We're gonna release this anytime. Like, don't fucking do it. Wait until it's in production before you actually release it to the public.
Makes you wonder how many Elon Musks there are really in the world.
Yeah,
because you got one guy who's a massive government contractor and he can buy Twitter, he can make cars and all that kind of shit. How many other people are just like him that came up with some awesome shit that they don't get a voice anymore. He owns that shit. Yeah. I mean, people credit Thomas Edison with the invention of the light bulb. He did not invent the light bulb.
He was a thief.
He bought patents. He stole intellectual property from people. He's not the He's not the person that people thought he was.
Not an inventor.
He just swiped a bunch of IP from a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
So
hang on. Did you have an answer? Like when you asked the question, what does it take to create a breakaway society? Is this something you have answers to, or are you just sort of posing that?
I don't know if I have answers, but this is something I think about a lot. And this is the first time I've actually had this conversation. But you need everything that we have up to this point. I mean, health, personal wellness, standing in your community, Maslow's, right? You need health care. You need to be able to maintain and express the human form.
Yep.
So you need good food and you need somebody that's going to fix you when you break.
Yep.
You need energy. You need to stay warm. You need to be able to go places. So you're going to need oil because you're going to need to fly somewhere.
Well, but
at some point.
You don't have to. Like that's my argument to that, and what I was trying to get to with saying like if you were localized, like we are luckily I was born here. I was born 30 miles down the fucking street.
Mm-hmm.
There is not I could walk into the woods and live.
Yeah.
We have the ability, and to truly have the ability, I don't know if I have the ability because I've never actually fucking done it. But I got a feeling I could figure out how to live off the land in the woods, maybe. Especially if I had a group of 20 people with me.
Yeah.
Right? If we had something like that, that's where I always think, how cool would it be to live this life and have that as an option, to have 100 acres in the woods with 20 of your best friends and just see how long you could make this last.
Yeah.
And in that regard, if we had the things we needed with tools, really it comes down to tools, right?
Yeah.
How long could we go camping for?
Indefinitely.
And that's the life that I'd love to think about living.
I think about that a lot too, especially with kids,
Well, and with that, I don't know that we would need oil because we would be everything we need is relatively close.
Yeah.
Like we live in an environment full of resources.
Yeah. Think about how I don't know hardly any of the people in this neighborhood, but what if our daily work was done right here in our own community, so that you would be working shoulder to. You wouldn't be I wouldn't be driving 40 miles to work with people who live in completely different cities. I'd be working right here,
making sure
in my
this
little
guy's power's
community.
going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, exactly.
This guy's got good plumbing. And,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Helping
that-
level out that piece of land so you have a flat.
Yeah.
You know,
And so
for
the
no
Amish
house or
style.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think life would be a lot more stress-free and casual. Because imagine if you could, rather than waking up at 4 o'clock to grind into traffic, imagine if you could wake up at 7, pour yourself a cup of coffee, walk out into the front driveway, and be like, "All right, boys, what are we doing today?" Oh, Bill down the street. We gotta go do a little plumbing job. Roger that. Grab my tools. Let's go. And then
What do
you guys wait? Hang on. Do you guys want to make a breakfast skillet first?
yeah no
You know what I
Let's
mean?
sit down podcast.
run down to the garden and get
Yeah. Somebody go get some peppers and some eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do the Amish have to pay taxes and stuff?
No, I don't think they do.
How did they fucking do it?
It's a church.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how did they go about making their society run the way it does?
No.
So
Nobody
rather
fucks
than
with
the
them.
independent republic of Granite Falls, we need like the gospel republic of Granite Falls.
Yeah,
Like
hallelujah.
the Christian Republic of Granite Falls, the Orthodox or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess to my point, like you're right. You don't need oil.
I mean,
but-
obviously, yes,
But
you will.
You need an
Yeah.
energy
But
source.
that's
Oil
what I-
just happens. The earth, it bubbles out of the earth.
But what we were talking about was the fact that
But we're going to run out because it's made out of dead dinosaurs. Shut the fuck up.
yeah, they didn't die that long ago.
They're still around somewhere.
Yeah.
There's alligators.
Yeah, they're underneath some ice.
Yeah, what are
somewhere.
those?
They're
What are
trying to
those
keep
fish
us
in the
from
Columbia? The not gars, but sturgeon.
sturgeon.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
plenty of
fuck
sturgeon
those
and
are
alligators
guys.
around.
Spoil those fuckers. But you're going to need to power generators and
Well,
trucks and cars.
to
and-
live in that, like, to live in a society in these modern times, you do need to have resources further than just us going out in the woods. And that's why I always like go back to my happy place of like, if I was born in the early 1900s, how fucking great would that have been? Because everything was just fucking, there was no computers, there was no bullshit. It was just, this is what it is. Like, it all made sense. It was all mechanical.
Yeah.
But then now to compete on a world scale, to be sovereign, you have to have a way in which to compete with your neighbor,
You know
or not
what's- you know
necessarily
what's interesting?
compete, but be able to like stay with. And that's why you look at all these countries in Africa and all these other that are fucking resource rich, but they can't do fuck all because they can't compete with us technologically. And so they're left to whoever wants to control them and put the most into them. They are fucking at their bidding because of that. Yeah. So if we could figure out a way to, and that's where building a society today is so much fucking harder than it was 100 years ago, is we don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
It's like we
And
have to.
we rely so much on things that are
have to
just so
take-
siloed and separated from everybody else. Like if you want information, we need our phones. We need an internet connection. And if that goes away, which can very easily happen for no reason, or for many reasons, or for no reason at all, and then you're blind. So that's the next part of it. And I don't have an answer. I kind of do, but I don't really. How do you gather and disseminate and share relevant information?
Pony Express.
Pony Express.
You got to charge your horse across continents fighting Indians as you go. That's literally how they were doing it 100 years ago.
That's true. But no, really though, I mean, that's why that is going to come into it. You know, just being able to have an unorthodox, not even unorthodox, but
He pointed at a ham radio, by the way.
a tried and true method for communicating with people.
Yeah.
That it's not going anywhere. You know?
I actually, something you just said, I don't think it would be that difficult to reestablish a society at like 1980 standards because everything was mechanical. It was all very simple. Like, forget all this internet and fancy bullshit. Like, to get back to 1980 level, I don't think it would be that difficult.
Yeah, Levi's and Nikes, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Fuck
no shit.
yeah.
Let's go.
Because you can fire that thing up right now and talk to somebody on the other side of the country.
Yes, you can.
Easily.
Yes. Not easily, but if you know what you're doing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes some skill to.
Okay. And you got to have the right equipment. You got to have the right antennas and the right.
And all
this
the
is
equipment
actually
in
not
between here and there
capable-
have to be working.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see. So because they bounce, they ping pong signals off of each other.
Yeah,
Correct?
it
Is that
depends
how
on
that
if you're hitting repeaters, or there are ways you can. So this radio is not capable of
Cross country.
UF signal, or not UF. Is it UF or It's the one where you use the Cobra head antenna, and it's like for everybody who's seen the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young, where at the beginning he turns on the military radio and they're listening to advisors in Vietnam while they're in the United States. But what you can do is the low frequency radio waves have such a big wavelength that those are the ones you can reflect off the ionosphere and literally just bounce them around the globe using if you have the correct equipment. That equipment's more expensive and like if you're going to do it legally, requires a higher level of licensing. Which who the fuck I don't give a fuck about licensing.
My shorts.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole bunch of ham radio dorks who just unsubscribed from this podcast, but. Yeah, no, the reality is with some pretty basic radio equipment, shit that Tesla was making in his fucking basement, you can bounce a signal all the way around the globe.
Yeah. So that's kind of the missing link in all of this for me is a communication apparatus that it's accessible.
Ham radio was another thing I went deep nerd on when we were locked down. Like I had 6 weeks off of work in 2020 when we were locked down. I was like, well, I need to do something productive. So I just got on YouTube University and did a whole lot of self-education on ham radios. And being an electrician, it's all AC theory.
Yeah.
Since we already know AC theory, learning ham radios was pretty quick and easy.
Yes. So that's the next little rabbit hole for me too then.
Yep. And that's where like I don't really feel like it's like I could create electricity. You give me a fucking pond or a river.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I guess not a
pond. And energy is all
river,
around us.
You know?
Yeah.
The wind, like look outside, the flag is blowing, which that is kinetic energy right there. Yeah. There's ripples on the lake. That's kinetic energy.
Yeah,
and where you don't see anything moving, there's potential energy. Yeah. We are swimming in a universe of energy.
Yeah. And it's fun to like sit there and think of ways in which to create
harness it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if we had time, here's the other thing is because we are on this spinning hamster wheel of just barely keeping our nose and mouth above water, we don't have time to pursue that. But if we had time, if we didn't have to worry about food, water, shelter, safety, and we weren't on the hamster wheel, we would have all kinds of time to explore these ideas and use our own ingenuity. And I don't think it would take very long at all for us to figure out how to make ourselves back into a very functional
And the
society.
government fucking knows that. And that's why there's carbon offset taxes
to
on
make sure that you just barely keep your nose and mouth above water.
But to have that time with yourself is one thing, but then to have that time with a group of people and truly sit down and try and hammer some shit out is the fucking, I mean, think about this podcast. We just get here and bullshit ideas back and forth, and it's kind of tough to get just 3-4 people together at times and like get that scheduled where everybody's got everything going on and everybody keeps each other so busy, and there's all these fucking sports and all this other shit and all these people like to have. When I had 3 weeks off the other day, like earlier a couple months ago, and I felt so fucking relaxed. It was the craziest
thing. He beat that dick like you would.
Dude, like a step kid, like a fucking step kid. Yeah, and then I relaxed. I slept for 16 hours
After
straight.
4 days straight, I finally slept.
Yeah, I finally was able to relax, dude. But that's to have that and like all of a sudden take a breath, relax, because that's what happened. Yeah. I was able to fucking relax, and then it was like, all right, well, what am I going to do to occupy my time? And then it started, production started happening, and it was like, oh fuck, this is nice.
Exactly.
But then imagine that if you had fucking 20 people with like mind, do the same thing and do it together on the property.
Yes. And
all of a sudden,
here's the other thing is when you eliminate stress, creativity blossoms. So because again, that hamster wheel comes with a lot of stress. And it's when you're relaxed, hanging out in your garage, just imagine if the three of us were just hanging out in the garage and we had a couple batteries and some wire and a couple, and like, hey, let's just fuck around with this. Yeah. Imagine what would come out of that after. Imagine if you had 6 months of that. Like, what do we do during the day? Well, we've got all our food, water, shelter, safety taken care of right here in our neighborhood. Just put on a pot of coffee. Let's hang out in the garage.
Yeah.
And maybe today we're just bullshitting, but maybe tomorrow somebody's looking at that just kind of fucking around, picks up that battery and picks up a whatever and goes, I have an idea. Let's try this. And maybe it's nothing, but eventually one of those ideas will be like, oh, fuck, that worked.
Yeah. Or more to the point, I need something. Let's get after it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm bored and I got a lot of energy. What do you guys want to make today?
Or I need power for this, or I need a way to fix that, or I need to divert this creek, or I need to dig this well, or whatever the fuck. But I guess my final point on all of this is, what is the common goal? What is the common aesthetic? Why are we doing this? What is the mission statement? What is the thing that's going to carry us and the people around us to be able to continue to do this for months and years and teach our kids to do it for months and years, kind of rebuilding the American way of life. Because that I think is the integral part of it that's been lost for all of us, that we just kind of exist. We take for granted that we live here and we do this, but not. I mean,
it got too easy, and we all took it for granted,
and we lost the common goal.
It was
we lost
the common thread.
Mm-hmm.
Nationalism is required to have a nation. So that's the reason why nationalism has been associated with evil very lately in the news. Like the word a white nationalist, like that's supposed to be a bad thing. Well, my skin is white. I can't fucking help that. Yeah. That's not my fault. That's the way I was born. And I do love this country. So that makes me a nationalist. And I believe in American traditional values. So if that makes me a nationalist because I want to have a safe society and I want to have things like freedom of speech and all these different rights that we were guaranteed as God-given rights, that makes me bad.
Well, and this is
yes, I am a white nationalist. Fuck you.
And these narratives, the things that we bicker, the things that, and I think that we've got to get better about recognizing when we're getting pulled into basically just trying to walk through peanut butter, just negotiate and navigate our way out of these stupid reciprocal arguments. Things like pro-choice or pro-life. I think they throw that into politics because it's pointless. Yeah. And it's important for some people, but big picture, it's not really that fucking important.
Really no, it's economics is what's important, and we're getting
correct.
It's a disruption of society that puts red versus blue.
Yeah.
And as long as people are bickering red versus blue or yellow, it doesn't matter what color, just us versus them. That's that. I mean, people have said it over and over again, divided we fall, united we stand.
Things like race, rainbow rights, all that kind of shit, which the alphabet people, whatever, I don't really care that much, but all those stupid arguments that we get hit with and we feel like we have to walk our way out of or
decide elections.
Yeah. Or debate our way out of a reason. It's like, no, it's a waste of my fucking time and I'm not doing it. I don't care. Leave me alone. Yeah. I have bigger and better things to do. I can't afford to do anything right now.
Well, the thing that's telling, like to bring jiu-jitsu back into the conversation, is when you slap and bump on the mats, or even if you're just training partners drilling, do you give a fuck what color that person's skin is?
Don't care at all. Does not matter.
Not one goddamn
Doesn't
bit.
matter at all.
Yeah. Not one goddamn bit.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I barely care what belt they have.
Really, though? I mean,
Yeah, you're right. All I care about is, did you take a quick rinse before you came? Did you smell like BO? Did you wash your gi?
Did you
wash
cut your nails? For Christ's sakes, cut your nails, please.
Yeah, no shit.
That was my point in bringing all this up, is that if we're going to have it, instead of, and I like that we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but it's just like, well, how's that going to take shape? How's that going to be made manifest? Because how are we going to put that into being so that we can actually see that we believe this stuff?
Yeah.
Well, realigning the thought of like your needs are more important than your wants, and the ability to fulfill your needs outweigh the other, right? So we've kind of lost that in America, where everybody wants shit and they expect their needs to be met by somebody else, and they have no way in which to, fulfill their needs.
Yeah.
Everything is, I want that, or this would be cool, or like, let me get that. And then it's like, over years and generations, people have completely lost the ability to fulfill their own needs. Yeah. Whereas at the beginning of the century, or not this century, last century, right? Like, people knew how to fucking get what they needed.
Yeah.
And go on living.
Yes.
And that's just, and not only is it harder now to do because it's a lost, I don't want to say art, but it's a lost trade. Like, that was all just, people knew what the fuck they were doing to live. And now the government wants to stop you from.
We are dependent. We have allowed ourselves to slide into dependence.
We've allowed it, but then the government has also solidified it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And they do everything they can to make it to where you can't collect rainwater.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
You can't do like just basic things.
I have 400 gallons of water on my property that tells me otherwise.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the government tries to tell you can't do these things, and then they'll throw fucking the greenhouse gases or fucking the global warming or fucking whatever, and they try and use each other pitted against each other.
That's what it is. Get everybody arguing over these non-issues, like global warming. Yes, again, we're back to climate change. The Earth is warming because we are emerging out of an ice age. But so now they go, okay, well, now we can use this and actually the data doesn't even really show that the Earth is warming that much. It's all a farce. It's all a created, it's a manufactured issue to divide people. So that rather than looking at real issues, we're looking at an issue that has been created from nothing to get us, it's jangling keys. They're jangling the keys and everybody's like, oh my God, climate change, we have to fight about this.
Well, if this was an issue, the fucking most expensive land in the world wouldn't be the ocean front.
It would be up in the mountains.
And this is the thing about
in the interior.
The thing about those narratives and the scientists and the experts and the data and all that, it doesn't matter. We know the data doesn't matter because we lived through COVID. The data didn't matter to push the narrative at all. It was never fucking data driven. It was always narrative. And it's the same thing now. This is why when you see people like, there's flight trackers, you can follow Taylor Swift's flight pattern across the country and all over the world.
Greta Thunberg's flight pattern.
Yeah, it's all these people. Well, like
about carbon.
And I'm a huge Formula One fan, but they go on this Formula. They have this carbon initiative. It's like, guys, you go all over the world with huge personnel, all these jets, all the fucking drivers,
the giant teams that drag all their tires,
and they have multiple ships crossing the ocean to set up for months in advance. I mean, it's just the carbon footprint is, I think it's like 700,000 tons a year.
Are those cars going to go electric soon? Not because of climate change shit, but because electric, they're just faster.
Yeah, no.
Instant torque to the wheels.
Yeah, it's getting a lot better, and I think people like Shell is a big sponsor right now. They have a zero.
It's like AMA. You can't use an electric dirt bike in Supercross because it's too much of an advantage over the two-stroke gas bikes.
Yeah, Formula One's going to go that way. IndyCar is going to go that way. They've said so in a few years, but
fucking gay.
they sound terrible.
Those Sauron electric bikes don't smell anything like a YZ250.
Nope.
You can't get that chainsaw smell coming off the two-stroke pipe with an electric dirt bike.
Yeah, they're running 1.6 liter hybrids.
Which, if I'm being honest, part of the joy of riding a dirt bike is the smell of riding a dirt bike.
Yeah, but I mean, to my point about motorsport and all that, it's like they want to go carbon neutral or green or whatever. It's like, you guys are spewing so much shit into the atmosphere. You're actively going back on what you're saying right now.
Well, it's even more telling that the World Economic Forum, when everybody meets at Davos, which they are sort of like the ultimate warlord right now because nobody elected them. They just sort of stepped in and said, hey, we run all policy of all Western nations.
And they captured the ultimate natural resource, which is our attention.
Yes. And so they show up in Davos every year to preach climate change in all of their literally all of their private jets.
If you think about your time, your idle time, the I can do anything with my time, they're capturing that.
Oh yeah, they are.
And that's part of the evil of these phones.
Mark Zuckerberg
is the advent of the smartphone caused everybody to stop. It has allowed us to communicate globally, but it has eliminated our local communication.
Yes.
That might be the true evil of these things, is that you're not talking to your neighbors anymore. You're not talking to the people in your...
Where do these uprisings come from?
Yeah.
Two people fucking sitting at a
beer
table.
halls.
You know what I mean?
The United States Revolution started in
a couple knuckleheads like us.
Yeah.
And when you're so fucking caught up on your phone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, not that many people get involved. A few people set the tone, and everybody else kind of just like
watching. Yeah,
and
here's maybe another thing is that everybody is so worried about issues on the other side of the globe. Nobody's worried about what's happening in their own county. Which, if this phone went dead tomorrow, we've talked about this before. Right now, we're used to knowing what's happening on the other side, like in Indonesia or Australia, exactly.
Yeah.
And if that phone went dead tomorrow, we wouldn't know what was happening outside of our driveway. And maybe we need to get back to that so that we focus all of our attention on what's happening in our own fucking neighborhood.
Just a worldwide blackout for like 6 months, and then after we emerge from that, we'd be like, oh fuck.
Because think about this: all the people who are basically takers. You have two basic types of people. You have creators and you have consumers. So a creator is somebody who creates value from where there was nothing. And the example I always use is the range, right? Greg and I bought this property. There was nothing there. There wasn't even a road. We built a road. We cleared land. There wasn't a 3-day rifleman camp 2 years ago. I dreamed it up and I created it. And now people come and trade their value for my value at this 3-day camp. So that's creation. A business, we've been taught to think that creativity means art. It's not just art. It can be something practical, right? Mm-hmm. So that is an example of creation. Then you have an example of a taker, who someone walks in and goes, hey, you just made $1,000 selling rifleman camp spots. We're going to need 300 of that. And you go, for fucking what? I did all the hard work. I dreamt it up. I brought it from an idea in my head to an actual thing that exists in the third dimension. Mm-hmm. And you think that you're entitled to 30% of it? Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Developing an entire generation of people that are not going to accept that is our mission right now.
The moment we get back.
On the way back, for all the fucking tools and bullshit I had to buy to make this happen.
Yes.
You got your fucking cut.
Yeah.
And the moment that these phones collapse and don't work anymore, those takers are going to have a real hard time leeching their way into our creations.
They're going to have an impossible time.
Yes.
Because that's not
not
acceptable.
That is what a monetary system is. That's what the U.S. dollar is they force you again. So now you have, I'll call them the warlords, your large corporations, your Kroger, your Walmart, your whatever it is, so that if you want to go get your basic supplies, you're forced to trade in their monetary units, which allows them, then they inflate it, take all the value off. You know what I mean? 2 years ago, I thought I was retiring at age 55. Today, not a chance, because inflation took all the value out of what I had saved.
Yeah, well, and that's what we were talking about a little bit last week, was the fact that the fiat currency, which
by
is
decree,
by
force, and it is designed to skim some off the top.
Yeah, and now if I say, which I'm probably going to say, I'm not going to pay any fucking taxes on Training Northwest this year.
You shouldn't.
And so they'll send me a threatening letter that says, if you don't pay this fee, then they'll start taking away my fiat dollars from my other job, and my paycheck will be garnished by the IRS. So I'll probably stop going to work at that point, and I'll only live on what I can make with Training Northwest or side jobs for cash. And then at some point they'll go, okay, we're either going to put you in a cage or we're going to shoot you. We're going to send men with guns to your house, and you have a choice. You can let them put you in handcuffs, or they will shoot you. That's your option. So really, it's everything that our government does and is enforced at the barrel of a gun, both domestically and abroad.
All of it boils down to a threat of violence.
All of it, yes.
And that's why it's
to violence at the point of a gun. And that's part of why they don't want you to own a gun, because that gives you the opportunity. Because my answer will be, all right, boys, my fight's not with you. My fight's with your boss, but I'm not going away in handcuffs. Yeah. And I'm also not going to lay down and just let you shoot me. So we've got a little standoff here. And I'm aware that it ends with me dead, and I'm okay with that, because I'm not going away in handcuffs.
You need a lot of people who are on board with that, because taxation, they say taxation is theft. It's not theft. It's extortion.
Yes.
It's, hey, I'm taking my cut and I'm coming back.
Right. Yes. I'm taking my cut every single time you make a product, every single time you use your creative powers to make something of value. We are taking a cut of it. And if you don't like that, we're going to come to your house with guns, and we're either going to put you in handcuffs or we're going to shoot you, one or the other.
It was kind of reminds me of this, but a T-shirt I saw, and it said the greatest reward a reporter can get isn't the Pulitzer Prize. It's getting shot by the CIA.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. You did it. You figured it out. That's when you know you finally figured
Max
it all
Hastings.
out. Yeah, no shit.
Fuck, man.
God damn. Well, I think that's a pretty good rant to end it on right there. And before we do close it out, I'm supposed to say that if you guys are liking and enjoying the show, please take a screenshot and share it on the evil black box that is your smartphone.
Into this frequency at this time.
Exactly. Please share this on your. Well, hey, if you like this message, if it resonates with you, for now, while we have these communication devices, share it. Screenshot it, share it on whatever social media you're using. Send it to your friends and family, because we've hit a wall of we're getting like 300 downloads per show, and we can't seem to get past that. So the only way we are going to get past that when we talk this kind of shit is for you guys to share it, because none of the big platforms are going to promote it.
Yeah. Shout out to our boy Javier.
Retarded Javier. We love you, brother. All right. Goodbye, everybody.